Hello, everyone. My name is Norberto Flores. I am the District 10 Auditor Chair for the cycle 2023-2024. Today, we are going to present with the results of the audit, but I would like to introduce first the team. First of all, Wendy Pullman and Craig Gerlock, collaborators of the team, and our two key officers from the District 10, Sandra Orland, our District Director, now past District Director, and Robbie Millich, our District Finance Director. These two officers have been instrumental in developing the audit with the help of the team. I'm going to explain you a little bit of the audit. What is the audit? It's just a review of the P&Ls, or profit and loss statements. And the idea is to say the District 10 made some expenses or had some incomes. We check that everything is properly documented and we report it back. That is, in essence, the audit. What I'm going to present today is the results for the second Toastmasters year, meaning January through June 2024. The first part of the audit was presented last year in December. The auditor was completed before the Toastmasters International deadline, which is August 31st. It was a little bit challenging, but with the help of all the team, we were able to do it. And of course, we comply with Toastmasters International guidelines. What are the results? Basically, for us to perform the audit, we use the P&Ls. Every month we receive the P&Ls and we verify, as I mentioned before, that the expenses or the incomes are properly reported. For each one of them, we have to have a document, a receipt, something that physically demonstrates that the expense or income was properly documented. In this case, in the audit, most of the P&L expenses and incomes were properly documented and or approved by District 10, and I will explain a little bit more in just a second. There were some items in the P&L where the numbers reported did not match the available receipts. Now, let me clarify. It doesn't mean that these expenses or incomes were wrong. It means that we do have the receipts, but for whatever the reason, when we try to add those numbers, they do not match the P&L. You would ask why? Well, because sometimes Toastmasters International takes those receipts and they break down the receipts and allocate them to different line items. Then it's sometimes difficult to reconcile those numbers. It doesn't mean, again, that the expenses were not valid, but we just have to go back to Toastmasters International and ask to revisit those numbers to make them match. I will give some details in just a minute. Here's one. There's a document, which is the District Reserve Statement. This contains incomes or expenses from the district and some accruals. Normally, those numbers are reported in the corresponding P&L. As you can see in this list, in several months, some of these numbers did not appear in the P&Ls. Again, it doesn't mean that these are not valid numbers. It is just the way they have been included into the finance reports in Toastmasters International. What we have to do is to ask Toastmasters International to go through these specific numbers and answer back why they were or were not included or when they would be included. Another one is the credit card. Normally, the District 10 make expenses and they use a credit card. More often than not, those credit card expenses are reflected immediately in the P&L and directly into the P&L. What happened in this case, there were a number of expenses, most of them for the United States Postal Service, that were made by or with a credit card. But when we try to match these expenses and receipts that we have in hand with the number reported in the P&L, they do not add up. Again, we do have the receipts. We know they are authentic, but we have to make a reconciliation. We need Toastmasters International to clarify, because again, they might have taken these numbers and broken them down into different line items, and that's where the complication comes. In the next one, you'll see something similar, and this is a specific P&L. I will give you only one example. I don't want to go through all the details, but just to give you an idea. For example, we had this line item 74044, which is for postage and shipping. We have in the P&L an amount of $940.91. If we take all the receipts for shipping and handling, we could not make those numbers to add to that specific $940.91. Or if we go to the accruals from District 10 to the journal, we found a number that is only $743.16. I know, because it happened in the first half of the year, that eventually Toastmasters International goes back and reconciliates its numbers and reflect the corrections in future P&Ls. We are pretty sure this is going to happen, but it is our responsibility right now to report these numbers, and we are going to ask Toastmasters International for clarification. Another important thing is the timing. Normally, the P&Ls are made available to us about 15 days after the month closing. In the case of June, we should have received the P&L July 15, 16. Unfortunately, we received it only until August the 12th. The problem with this is that it reduces the amount of time that we have to go back to Toastmasters and make those clarifications that I was just describing to you. Instead, we will have to report them to them and let them analyze, check back, and come back. But now this is going to be part of the next Toastmasters year's audit. Another part is the documentation. We have a big part of the documentation in a system called Concur. It's an electronic system where whenever there's an expense, the documentation is put there. We have the receipts, we have everything. So our team went through every single record and we took note and reported them accordingly. Also, for every operation, whether it's a receipt, a bank statement, a credit card statement, an accrual, whatever it is, we created a database in the cloud, and that database has been made available to all the team, and we have been feeding the database. This information, all this package is going to be delivered to Toastmasters International by August 31st. And we do that because if they need to check anything, they are going to have 100% of all the information without having to go to any place but the report that we're sending. Very important finding is that when you check the P&L and the budget and the actuals, they do not match always. Now you would say, well, is that very bad? Well, yes and no. Let me give you an example. Perhaps originally we said we were going to have a conference, and the conference is going to be $1,000. But at the end of the day, it was decided that that conference was going to be made via Zoom. So we didn't incur in the expenses of the hotels or quotations or whatever it might be. So there's a variance there. So it's just the justification is there. We just need to understand it. Or we might be expecting that we're going to have X number of new members, but we had more than expected or less than expected. And sometimes the budget does not match the actuals. That's the only reason. But all this is documented in the P&Ls. And the important thing of this part is that this information can be used to prepare future budgets and make them more precise every time. Another important thing is this. District 10, they make an expense or they get an income. They document this properly, and I have seen everything. And they report all that information to Toastmasters International. Now, Toastmasters International, they are the ones who actually produce or control or manage the accounting part of it. District 10 really is not handling that part. That's why all the P&L generations and all that information might have information that we cannot control, and we always have to go back to Toastmasters International. But I have to say that based on the findings through the audit all this year, District 10 provided and did the expenses in the right way, with the right authorizations, and they were properly documented. Finally, another finding is that for some reason, some of the expenses that are incurred in 1 month are not reported in that month, but in a later month. Again, Toastmasters, they need to help us understand how this is working. And for that reason, we would like to recommend to Toastmasters International to provide the district, and specifically, of course, the audit team, an in-depth training about how the P&Ls are produced, how's the information produced, how do they handle all these reassignments of the receipts, how they are reflect them in different line items. Again, the information is there. It's just a matter of determining exactly how it is being provided or reported. That's, in essence, the reasons, the audit. But I don't want to finish without saying thank you to two people, Sandra Orland, our former past district director, and our finance manager, Robbie Millage, because I know that they're very humble. But let me tell you, the amount of work, effort they put into providing all this information for us to say, yes, it is okay, it was amazing. So Sandra and Robbie, thank you very much. With this, I would like to go into any questions you might have. Back to you.